to Gamecock Pod Live.
For the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be committed to the University of Gamecock.
This is Rogers again to the 25, 20, 15, 10. Rogers scores! All the better than Jackie Bradley Jr. delivered for the Gamecocks. Lost it up, looking for Kelly. Touchdown! Can you believe it?
And South Carolina is sending shockwaves through the SEC.
Frederick! Plays it in at the buzzer! That's a win! Unbelievable! I don't believe it!
And now, live from Studio 54 of the Gamecock Pod Studios, here's the Cockfather himself, Keith Alsep.
All right, everybody, welcome into Gamecock Pod Live for September the 24th, episode number 1859. And we have got a great show on tap for you today. In just a couple minutes, we will be joined by my good friend, Ben Breiner, formerly of Go Gamecocks and the State, currently breaking it down like no other for thebigspur.com, giving you in-depth video analysis. We will take a deep dive into South Carolina's 2-2 very disappointing start, and we'll break it all down. So the big news yesterday, the SEC announcing everybody's slate of SEC opponents for the next 4 years. Chris Lowe, formerly of ESPN, now working for Shannon Terry at On3 and Rivals. On Monday, he successfully broke the scoop that South Carolina, well, I think he pretty much had it right on everybody. He knew everybody's 3 permanent opponents, South Carolina and a lot of other teams with a lot of the old SEC East flavor, Georgia, Florida, and Kentucky. And so 1 year, you're going to have 5 home SEC games. The next year, you're going to have 4. Next year, South Carolina will play Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Texas A&M at home. They will play at Alabama, at Arkansas, at Florida, and at Oklahoma. And then the next year, you get to play the other 6 teams. And so, and then you flip it again. And so you're going to play, if a player stays 4 years, they're going to play every team in the SEC, both at home and on the road. And let's go to the Queen City of Charlotte, or perhaps parts unknown, and bring in my good friend Ben Breiner, a.k.a. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Ben, good morning.
I have to say the view from my apartment is probably less good than the view from whatever cabin Ted was holed up in.
Good stuff. Hey, man, good morning. How you doing?
Doing all right. Doing better than this Gamecocks football team, unfortunately. But
well, I mean, there's a lot of homeless people that can say the same, quite frankly. So your thoughts on the schedule reveal? Now every conference is at 9 games beginning next season. The ACC, which I didn't even realize because it's like Clemson and the 14 little people. but not this year. Misery loves company. South Carolina's 2-2, Clemson 1-3 for the first time since 2004, and the floundering Dabos could be in trouble. But the ACC next year will go to 9. Mm-hmm. The SEC is at 9, and there were some weird opponents. I thought. For a few teams, like one really weird permanent opponent, but for the most part, a lot of teams, they kept their most historic traditional rivalries, and a lot of SEC teams, particularly in the East, kept a lot of SEC East flavor, as did the West.
Yeah, I think I've maybe said on other platforms, I'm a little more skeptical of the 9-game need for the 9-game schedule than other people, but that is what it is. In terms of South Carolina, I think they made out pretty well. Like it feels like the Gamecocks for a lot of teams are maybe not like the highest of tier rivals, and to catch both Florida and Georgia, teams that are really important. That's good. And not having three power teams. Honestly, I think that's a you'd want to get Vanderbilt. But aside that's pretty good.
Yeah, except for this year, and getting whipped 31-7 inside of Williams-Brice Stadium, and Lenore Sellers throwing a pick on the second drive certainly cost the Gamecocks. So, I mean, look, I get it. I don't like playing 9 and playing Clemson. I doubt seriously, Jeremiah Donati and Shane Beamer are going to keep those home and homes with Miami. Although I really wouldn't mind North Carolina, because they're really not a Power 4 football team. They're run by a 25-year-old gold digger wearing cowboy boots and mini skirts on the sidelines.
That's a very weird description of Steve Belichick, but okay.
I love it. All right, so I think it was yesterday, Mike Gundy was fired at Oklahoma State. He's lost 11 of his last 12 games. They restructured his contract. He went 3-9. After T. Boone Pickens passed away and the money kind of dried up, Oklahoma State was just not prepared for the NIL transfer portal world. And you got to think back, and Mike Gundy's got to regret not taking that Tennessee job several years ago about right now. Of course, he is getting paid $15 million to not coach Oklahoma State football. He was there for 21 years, the only coach more tenured than him. Trivia question, can you guess who it is? I bet you can.
The only coach at Oklahoma State?
No, the only coach to be at their school for longer than 21 years that's currently a head coach in the FBS.
Kirk Ferentz, is it?
Kirk Ferentz from Iowa, that is correct. For Big Ten expert and Wisconsin graduate.
Kirk Ferentz was old news when I was in college. And I think that was maybe Gundy's first year. God, Kirk Ferentz has been good at holding a job.
He has been. And his son will probably follow him at Iowa. Just like Stephen Belichick will probably take over about 8 games in for Bill, as Bill and Jordan ride off into the sunset. We'll see. All right, so Ben, I mean, back to the schedule for just a second. I think the biggest thing here is what drives college athletics: greed. Okay. The networks want more. They want more games, more inventory, I think is what they call it. More quality inventory, which means more games, which means now a 16-team playoff, which means more games. And I think that's the driving impetus. I think in 2030, you'll probably by then have another round of expansion, and hopefully by then Clemson is with whoever their new coach is, Jeff Scott, Tony Elliott, somebody.
Tommy Bowden again.
Oh yeah, let's bring Tommy back. We'll be in the SEC and maybe North Carolina and Virginia and Virginia Tech, and maybe South Carolina could be in, their permanent opponents could be former ACC teams. We'll see. But I think that was the only way we were going to get to a 16-team playoff for next year. I think with all conferences agreeing to go to 9 conference games beginning in 2026, in December, I think they'll roll it out. The only question now is it 4 automatic bids for the SEC, 4 for the Big Ten, 2 for the Big 12 and the ACC, and then 1 from the Group of 5? Or is it the conference champions plus the G5, which will be 5 automatic bids, and then 11 at-large berths? There's, schools of thought for both. I don't really think a conference champion should necessarily get in. I mean, what if they're 8-4 and they just back into their conference championship game and win, and they're not even in the top 12 in the country? Like Clemson was 9-3 last year, and they backed in.
For what it's worth, I think. Do any of them have divisions anymore? Because it's harder to back in these days.
I don't think there's divisions.
Yeah, so in a 9-game conference season, the back end factor is going to kind of disappear a little bit because you have to be 1-2, and there won't be teams like Clemson that play 2 good out of conference opponents anymore. So it'll be trickier unless the conference is just real terrible at the top.
Which it generally has been.
Well,
FSU seems to be a little resurgent, but as we know, they could go 13-0 one year and go, or I guess 13-0, 12-0, win the conference championship and still get left out. So yeah. And then they throw out a 2-10 the next year. So we'll see. All right, let's talk about the Gamecocks. So obviously, high expectations coming into this year. Lenore Sellers back. Talk of a Heisman Trophy. A lot of talk of him being a very high draft pick. Even on the Missouri game, they put up on the screen polling of the NFL general managers. Lenore Sellers had more votes than any other quarterback to be the number 1 pick. He did play pretty good against Missouri, but he had some egregious misses and took a couple of egregious sacks. And then, just like last year, one time the ball slipped out of his hand and he couldn't throw it away, even when he tried to. What do you see when you evaluate the play of Lenore Sellers this year compared to the second half of last year? I mean, his last 8 games, he completed over 69% of his passes for almost 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, and was running with wild abandon. And this year, it's just not the same thing.
Well, I think that it seems like that injury really took some of the abandon out of his game. I think he maybe didn't need it those first 2 games, and then by the time that it hit with that third game, he gets knocked out. He did not look like he was running aggressively against Missouri at all. Which, I mean, I think there was a play to the sideline where he took off, and there was a clear hole with a safety coming in, and instead of trying to take on the safety, he just shoots right over the corner. I think in terms of his passing, I think it's a little less accurate, especially in terms of the deep balls. It seems like he's missed some open throws. It seems like 50-50 balls he hasn't slung as much as he had in the past. And I think some of the protection stuff is becoming a problem. I think he was benefiting last year from a little bit. He was so good at escaping that he was overcoming his offensive line, letting guys through. And he hasn't shown that escapability quite as much this year. Like when he's getting sacked this year, he's getting sacked. And I think that's a problem. And it's funny because I think in the last 2 games there was maybe more potential than there could have been, in the sense that I think if he doesn't get hurt against Vandy, they shake it off and figure it out. I think the offense figures it out some against Vandy because they were moving it. They just, they threw an ill-timed pick. They had one very bad series, and then his head getting cracked. I think against Missouri, there were 8 paths to win that game if you did 2 things better. They just didn't. So it's one of those things where you're trapped in the SEC where if you get 8% worse, that swings 4 games. Right? But yeah, going back to Sellers, I think he's not slinging the deep ball as well. He's not escaping as well, and he's not running with that abandon. And I think also there's also a conversation about how they need to run more zone read. And I think you have the problem that last year you could run zone read, and Rocket Sanders is the guy you're handing off to. And I think Oscar Attaway is a nice as a choice between Sellers and Oscar Attaway. And last year, Rocket Sanders made you think a little harder on that.
So when you look at it on film and you break it down, when you look back at last year, Dow Loggins had a habit of calling the same plays that worked over and over and over again. It seems like Mike Shula has really nice plays on the script, and then they never come back to them. Just like the little tight end drags. They used them against Virginia Tech on the opening drive. They zipped right through down the field. They never threw it again. You had the bootleg play from Lenoris, I think in the Vanderbilt game. Maybe that was the first game when Dingle had the 30-yarder. They never come back to that. They booted Sellers out one time against Missouri, hit Brian Rowe with the little drag underneath route. He turned it up with his speed for a first down. But you just don't see them come back to plays that work. I mean, Dow Loggins would run that little tight end drag to number 6 last year over and over and over, and they would get Sellers out of the pocket. They would run a little triple option action, and there would be counters off of that. I think they ran it 4 games in a row, and one time they'd pitch it and one time they'd have a pass play, but every game it was a different pass play. I just don't see schematically, it looks a lot different than last year, and I think they are missing Vershawn Lee for certain, and they're missing Torricelli Simpkins, who's an NFL offensive guard and was an NFL player when he got down there. But Josiah Thompson looks like he's regressed. Kason Henry has been injury prone. And schematically, it just, you break it down every week. You tell me it just doesn't look the same. And I feel like Lenora Sellers is being coached to run and play the way Lenora Sellers is playing, which is primarily to stay in the pocket.
I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think I actually was looking at some of the tight end flat stuff, and it seemed like it was getting. They had some success early, and Missouri was doing a pretty good job jumping it. And I think Sellers was struggling with what to do after something got jumped. Maybe you could have a few more zone reads, I think, or not zone reads, a few more rollouts. I definitely think that a little more QB sweep would be good to kind of mix in there. I should also point out, and this is a statistical thing, stats don't tell the full story. He's had two good passing games in a row. Statistically. Like 6 for 7 against Vandy. 10.8 yards per attempt in the last game. That'll probably be a little lower if he doesn't take sacks and throws incompletes instead. But it hasn't been like he's been bad. It's more that he's been less bombastically good, and because the run game hasn't done anything, then that becomes a lot more highlighted, I think. And in terms of the run game, those backs haven't been Rocket Sanders, and the offensive line, I think, has also walked worse than it did last year.
Do you think that's why they're giving Matthew Fuller some run? Because he and Jawan Howell are the biggest backs on the team at 220 pounds. Sanders was 230, obviously, and I think we all know you weren't replacing Rocket Sanders. I mean, he's a pro. He drafted by or signed by San Diego. He made it to the last cut. They probably wish they'd have kept him since I think their best back went down with a knee injury. But then the Cleveland Browns picked him up. He made their opening day roster. They spent all this time on Rasul Faison. He's got quick feet. He a lot of times has to make 3 people miss just to get back to the line of scrimmage. I mean, I think a lot of this is Sellers not trusting having a clean pocket. He definitely missed some critical throws. One horrible decision against Vandy, but missing Mazeo Bennett, that should have been a walk-in touchdown. And he missed that one. Then on 1st and goal from the 2, Shane Beamer says, well, everybody in the country runs the same play. It's a John Gruden play. Y2 fly banana
Spider
or whatever it
banana.
is. There you go. Spider 2 Y banana. And my counter to that is, but you have a quarterback unlike every other team in the country. And if Dow Loggins was calling plays, you probably would have run a quarterback sweep with Maurice Brown and one of the guards pulling, just like they ran against Texas A&M last year and multiple other teams. They haven't run that play one time this year. The only quarterback runs have been quarterback draw, mostly where he bounces it outside because there's no hole outside of the Virginia Tech game. And then he steps to the sideline.
I was going to say, I think they might have run it once or twice, but it's not been as much of the diet. And I think with that play action, I think so much of that is like it comes down to the read. Like you have to say it's covered. What is my situation? And then you got to heave it out of bounds. Like the thing you can't do is take a sack. And there's nothing strategic that is going to change any play action pass you're running the goal line. Your protection is not going to be very good, and you're going to have to get it out somewhat quick, especially if it's a roll. And I mean, that's just a moment that a mature quarterback can't have happen. Should they have gone sweep off the bat? Maybe. But here's the thing: if you throw an incomplete midterm, sweep's just as effective on second down, and you might be able to get away with because you're running a pretty nice, theoretically safe pass play up until.
It would have helped if Rasul Faison would have hit the guy coming through the A gap above the knees instead of sniping at his ankles. That was, I thought, pretty cowardly.
At least hit him in the shins. You can knock someone down in the shins. You can't hit someone down if you barely touch their feet.
I mean, the way it's taught is above the knee. So you don't get hit by the knee in the head. You go for above the knee to cut the guy down. That was critical. And then you had in the fourth quarter, the third down miss. He had not one but two wide receivers wide open in the middle of the field and just missed it badly. And Missouri comes from behind and wins because the defense couldn't tackle anybody the entire game. And I know they said in the player interviews, they worked on that. And here's the thing. South Carolina lost a lot of experienced dudes. They lost 3 fifth or sixth year linebackers last year. They lost Boogie Huntley, Tonka Hemingway, and TJ Sanders, second round draft pick. They lost the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, Kyle Kennard. Okay, they also lost DeAndre Jules. But Demetrius Knight, who's starting for the Bengals as a rookie, he became the heart and soul of that defense. You had Debo Williams. He took the mantle from him. Bam Martin Scott made the Panthers 53-man roster. O'Donnell Fortune had been there forever. Rashawn Lee had been there forever. There were a lot of older guys who had been in the program, and then you added older guys like Simpkins, like Kennard, Rocket Sanders, and Demetrius Knight. This year, I think at this point, you're 0 for 4 on portal offensive linemen. Nick Sharp never plays. Boaz Stanley, I think, generally there's a reason why you're in junior college. We now know why he was in junior college. And Nolan Hay, 4 games in, he gets his first start, he gets injured. Like I said off the top, Josiah Thompson has regressed. You're playing, for some reason, a true freshman at left guard. Marquis Anderson's always banged up. In fact, I don't think anybody really knows what his future is right now because of the injuries. That's tough. You bring in 4 guys, all of them are interior guys, and you're still starting an 18-year-old at left guard, and you're starting a 19-year-old who was a freshman All-American who does not even resemble the same football player. I'm for moving Tree Babalade to left tackle and benching Josiah Thompson. And if Cason Henry can't go at right tackle, I'm rolling with Jatavius Shivers because he's shown he can do it. He had to come in for Cason Henry at times last year when Henry could not keep up with the athleticism coming off the edge. But to me, the Lonnie Teasley experiment should be over. He's been the offensive line coach every year except for a few games to start the first year and about 2 games to start the second year. He's been the guy. Great recruiter, a great lover of food, no doubt, but not a guy that can coach and develop players. And you have Sean Elliott, who's wasting away at tight end with the title of run game coordinator, but he should be running the offensive line, and he's not.
I mean, let's not slag on people who like food. As a person who really does like food, like, you know, I got to stand up for people in my tribe here.
How many miles a week do you run?
About 10. A little longer now that I'm half marathon trained. I'm not a big calling people jobs guy, but I will say the product of the offensive line has just been, it's been poor. It's not been good. There's no way around that. And it's been an issue all over. And I understand the calling for backups. And my answer usually is, if you think the starter's bad, often the backup ain't worlds better. And you know, if you want to be critical, you can also make a point of this, which is that Steve Babalade was also a freshman All-American. And you know, Shivers has a lot of talent. And it's not like either of those guys has become that hyper-consistent, reliable player. Because if they would be starting. Like, that's sort of where you're at. If someone's a backup, they're often a backup for some kind of reason. And if they're a veteran player and they're a backup, that also tells you something. I mean, I was talking to someone who was chatting with an SEC offensive line coach who saw Tree his freshman year and was like, I would like that player. I would make him an All-American. And right now, it's not like when he goes in, I'm saying, well, the problem is solved today. Like it's not come together. And that's really rough. He's a really nice guy. I like him a few times. But it's a bad spot. And, you know, I'm sure Jane Gabriel would point out that everyone wanted Clayton White shot out the cannon 2 years ago. And he did bounce back. But you know, it might be in that getting late early kind of stage. Right after creationist.
I mean, they did turn it around towards the end of the 2023 season, and they had led the SEC in takeaways, I think, the first 2 years. But to me, look, you can't blame the running backs except for a couple of missed blitz pickups because there's no room to run. I think Nicholas Harbor has gotten better. He still sometimes does not track the ball. He lost the ball Saturday night. Van Drevis Jacobs has really stepped up. Brian Rowe has really stepped up. You see the flashes from Donovan Murph. Mazio Bennett's kind of been MIA. Then he runs wide freaking open, and Lenoris misses him. That was a walk-in. Jared Brown had one play against Missouri, and that was a little wheel route for 30-plus yards.
That was a good creative call, actually. That was really smart. But
it was.
With Mazio, I want to make a small note. I went back and looked at the miss on that deep ball. It was one of those ones where, like, Sellers needs to put the ball in a better place so it can be a walk-in touchdown. Also, Mazio Bennett probably needs to catch that ball. Like, it's a hard catch, but you're a good receiver. And it did kind of go through his hands. And so it's one of those where, like, ultimately that is on Sellers because you got to put the ball on him. But also, like, maybe a quarter blame where you're like, that's first and goal if Mazio Bennett doesn't have a ball go through his hands.
That one should have kind of been like the one to Brian Rowe. He was that wide open.
Oh, yeah.
He should have just been able to, he should have essentially should have just been able to slow down and wait on it and catch it.
Should have fielded like a punt.
Yeah.
And then taken three steps and thrown up six. For sure.
So, I mean, on the defense, they lost a lot of experienced dudes. They lost NFL dudes. I like the talent on defense. It's just they're woefully lacking experience in the front six. Even the older guys like Barrett, Goodwine, JT Gear hadn't played a whole lot, although I think he plays pretty good. He had the one play where he lost contain and went inside. Okay, Brian Thomas has done the same thing. Justin Okoronkwo and Fred Johnson are clearly SEC linebackers. It's just been tough sledding with the eye candy they've gotten the last couple of weeks. But those guys, I think, are pros at linebacker.
I honestly think the defensive line has been – it's not last year's defensive line, but I think it's been pretty decent, other than maybe 3 missed tackles last week. I think the line's been fine, but not unbelievable. The linebackers have been high highs, low lows. Like, they've had good moments, but when they're not having those good moments, it's just been figuring it out time. In terms of the secondary, just losing Judge Collier had such a trickle down because Miles Norwood is low end serviceable, but keeps having to play a lot.
He gets picked on a lot too.
He strikes me as he's better than a hold your breath player. When he's out there, you're not oh my God, don't get the ball over there. He's better than that, but if he has to be out there for 3 series in a row, something is going to go wrong. I think Cece's been pretty good overall. I've been impressed with him. I think Swain, I feel like the staff maybe feels his coverage a little up and down because I feel like if they felt really good about him, he would just be out there all game, and he isn't. So
he did start against Missouri.
He did,
He did play more.
It feels like there's a little bit of something there in the fact that if you really, really felt good about him, you just wouldn't play Norwood at all. You can play 80 plays at corner and you are probably okay. But I think it robs them of some flexibility. With Kilgore being kind of dinged up here and there, you end up figuring out, having other weird stuff where, you play a backup nickel, which has been, again, a little bit adventurous at times with his brother. I like the backup safety play, but it feels like they have a lot of B- to B safeties, but not a lot of guys where you're I need that guy out there every play. And then when you have Peyton Williams having a bad tackling game, that's the thing you need him in there for. And when he's not doing that and his angles are struggling, then he's really not a plus player. I think he can be better than he is. And I think a lot of those backups can too. They need more development. I think Williams just needs to play better. But yeah, it's a real funky mess in that back space.
I mean, I think with Collier only playing 1 quarter, I think with the issues with Peyton Williams tackling, you could have put Judge Collier, Cisse, and Swain at the 2 corners and the nickel, and you could have moved Jalen Kilgore back to safety with DQ Smith. I do think Gerald is a much improved player. The other Kilgore, so to speak, big time interception. David Busey plays really hard. But I think they got to figure that out, and getting Judge Collier back against Kentucky and then going to the bye week. I just don't know what the answers are on offense, but I'll finish the quote from Shane Beamer. The definition of insanity is not just doing the same thing over and over again. It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And Mike Shula, I don't know if he is in the NFL category, which is not for long, but this is college. And you've seen the last 2 weeks what really good college offenses look like. And South Carolina's offense looks nothing like either one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pro style stuff is a little overstated, but I also think that whatever they're doing is not translating to the kids and getting them to play the way they need to play. And it feels a little like, not 100%, but a little like that 22 offense, where when they beat Tennessee, people were like, did they figure out the amazing plays? And then you went back and watched, and it wasn't that the plays had any magic. It was just everyone played like they had the ability to play. And it turned out if you had a bunch of NFL or good SEC receivers and an offensive line that can be decent and a future NFL quarterback, and they all do the thing they can do, you're going to be okay. And I think that, in that bye week, the question is going to be, you going to tinker it with some scheme? Sure. But you need people to be able to play the way they can play. You need to figure out how to get whatever is in them out of them.
No doubt Dow Loggins figured that out after the first open date. Let's hope Mike Shula can do the same. Ben, thanks for jumping on today. Great stuff as always. You can find his work on thebigspur.com. Nobody breaks it down better. Clearly a Brett Bielema disciple of offense. Ben Breiner. Ben, be well, and we'll look forward to catching up with you down the road.
Good to talk to you, my friend.
All right. That was Ben Breiner, and now we bring in my fellow Atlanta Braves fan, Michael Sauls from the Gamecocks and the state. And, well, I'm just really depressed about talking about Gamecock football after that. So let's talk about a sport that actually wins all the time, and that is Gamecock women's basketball. Practice started yesterday. I believe they had media day. Kind of what was media day like? What were some of your big takeaways? Did you guys get to meet with all the players? And if so, just general thoughts and takeaways from the players first, and then I want to get to Dawn Staley and the scheduling after that.
Yeah, so it wasn't a true media day. Practice opened on Monday, and we got to talk to Raven, Johnson, and Dawn after practice. Raven was in good spirits. I feel like I did join the beat in the middle of the season last year, and a lot of it was players going, I talked to the media, but I guess because it's the beginning of a new season, they're not tired of us yet. But Raven was good, talked a lot about her dynamic with Tanaya Latz and obviously former high school teammates. Talked a little bit about the new freshmen with McDowell and McKeel. How she was like, she said that their IQ was the highest he's ever seen at a freshman coming in. And then with Coach Staley, just kind of similar tones. I think the one big takeaway from that I had from Coach Staley's time speaking was she kind of felt like the team was a little bit behind. Not that was bad necessarily, but simply because like the entire team wasn't there this summer. You had people doing the 3v3 stuff out in, I think it was Arizona. You had people playing in international competition. But then outside of that, she also praised the freshmen, praised Raven's growth, talked a little bit about scheduling, and then gave an update about Ashton Watkins. So solid first media session. and we'll go from there. Season will be here before you know it.
So Ashlyn Watkins taking the year off, not playing this year. That gives the Gamecocks 11 players, 5 front court players, 6 perimeter players, which is really enough. I mean, that's really all you need. But you're still, for the essentially most of the second year, particularly your postseason run, minus somebody who is the only underclassman in NCAA history to have at least 20 rebounds in a Final Four game, and a dunker, somebody who had dunked in every season, and her last dunk was at TCU on a 6'7" girl from right up the road in Liberty Hill, who was much traveled in college. But so on scheduling, Dawn Staley, as I predicted, not playing UConn. I do think there's more to that than the public coach speak. But, also South Carolina had the most quad 1 wins, and they got penalized for losing a game at UCLA in November. They had the toughest strength of schedule, the most quad 1 wins, and they were still not the number 1 overall seed. And so I can't really say that I blame her too much, but still, there are tough teams on the schedule. They will play North Carolina in an exhibition game that it's part of a doubleheader in Atlanta. Somebody's going to televise that. And then you have the real SC game in Los Angeles against Southern Cal. Even without Juju Watkins, they have a tremendous roster. After that, at the Players Era Championship, you're going to play Duke, which will probably be a top 10 preseason team, a team that took South Carolina to the wire last year. And Carol Lawson, one of the top coaches in the country, just named to be the USA basketball women's national coach. She'll coach the next Olympics team. Point guard personified, just like Dawn Staley, playing for Pat Summitt at Tennessee. And there's not a whole lot of love lost between Duke and South Carolina, and I'm here for that as well. And then they're going to play Texas or UCLA in the next game. If they play Texas, obviously that will not count as an SEC game. And then they're going to Louisville to play Jeff Walls' team. They're always really good. They do have Power 4 games against Penn State. They'll play USF. They'll play Providence. And you get the former, in addition to Clemson, you get the former assistant coach tour with Winston Gandy and Grand Canyon coming to Columbia for the season opener. And then Fred Shamil will return that home game from 2 years ago and come to Columbia. So you still have marquee games, not as many as we've been seeing. South Carolina will play some HBCUs. They will play North Carolina Central. They also play Florida Gulf Coast, which is interesting. And then they fill in that UConn game with Coppin State at Coppin State, which you don't ever really see a Power 4 team going to play an HBCU in their gym. But it's also in Baltimore, Maryland, which there's a lot of players in the greater DC area, and it's kind of a home game for Maddie McDaniel, sophomore point guard.
Yeah, I was looking at the scheduling, and I think a lot, and honestly, rightfully so, a lot was made of Dawn's comments after the selection show, where she basically went as far as say, hey, if we didn't get the number 1 seed the way that we scheduled, we're going to switch up how we schedule. And now, on Monday, she said that the reason the non-conference schedule is marginally lighter compared to other years is not because of what she said. It's very much like, okay, well, these two things can very much correlate. Like we can connect the dots on this. Like when you look at the schedule, it is genuinely like marginally lighter than in recent years. And I think it's just because we're so used to watching South Carolina play like a murderer's row of non-conference games. Like I think the split between high major and mid major is 7 to 8 this year, which is the first time since pull it up 2022-2023 that Carolina is playing more mid-major than high major teams in the non-conference slate. But to all the games you listed, they're still playing in marquee matchups. Like even though this real SC game was billed as the mid-major Hawaii versus Juju Watkins show, and now neither of those players are playing in the game, it's still going to be a really good game in a probably sold out NBA arena. So I think it'll be interesting to watch how that kind of non-conference slate develops. Obviously, they played Texas 4 times last year. There is still a world where that happens this year because they're playing in that biggest NCE. So I think that'll be fun.
Maybe 5 times. Yeah. Well, no, 4 times because they only play once in the regular season, which I really don't understand. I thought it should be South Carolina and Texas twice, or South Carolina and LSU twice.
Yeah. I thought Alabama was an interesting choice for that pairing, but above my pay grade. Go ask Greg Sankey about that. But I do think it's funny that after they played Texas 4 times in a year, it could happen again. With the NTE, a potential SEC tournament run in, the SEC game that they'll play in the regular season, and then maybe in March Madness. But I think those tests in the Vegas NTE early will be big. And then to your point about the HBCUs, I think that's huge. I mean, I covered HBCUs my first 2 years out of college, obviously covering Norfolk State and Hampton. And I think about it, like the biggest teams that came in to play at Norfolk State or at Hampton were on the men's side of things was James Madison. Like teams refused to come in and play. Like I remember JMU came in to Hampton ranked the year that they made the tournament under Mark Byington. And it was the first time a ranked team had come to Hampton since like North Carolina was there in like 81 or something. Like it was a long time ago. So this is a big freaking deal that like a perennial contender in South Carolina is going to play at Coppin State. So I think it's good for the game. You're seeing a lot more of that happening. I think Norfolk State women have like a home and home set up with Maryland and Duke in the next couple of years, which will be cool. And obviously, it's funny the coach who was at Coppin last year, South Carolina played Coppin, is now at Norfolk State and is setting up all these big Power 5 games like he did at Coppin. So I'm excited for that one. I think that'll be a fun one. I think that atmosphere will be at Coppin.
I agree. Small gym, probably packed out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but from a bigger picture, the non-conference schedule is only marginally easier. But I do think that they can probably walk out of that with. There's a shot that they're undefeated coming out of non-conference, depending on how a couple of things go.
No doubt. So South Carolina will play at LSU on a Saturday. I think that's like the first SEC regular season women's game that maybe didn't have to be rescheduled to be on a Saturday on Valentine's Day. But I just don't think there's a whole lot of love lost between those two programs. And Kim Mulkey, Floje Johnson, and Malaysia Fulwiley, who, let's face it, Dawn Staley labeled her the generational talent, and you saw the flashes, but very underwhelming. I mean, last year, when you shoot worse from three-point range than Raven Johnson, you were really bad. And Malaysia Fulwiley was really bad. And you saw signs in the NCAA tournament, if you go back and look, where there's a teammate on the ground, somebody she grew up playing with, and she just looks down and walks up the court and doesn't even help her teammate up. Also, somebody playing on one leg rips you like 3 times in the national championship game, probably a blow to the ego. I'm anxious to see what she does at LSU, and can she take Kim Mulkey's coaching? Because, look, I know Dawn Staley well enough to know there are explicatives that are flying on the bench, on the sidelines during games and in the locker room, but not that trailer park Louisiana moonshine language, okay? And so I'm interested to see for that. But I think it's addition through subtraction, because you got the number 1 scorer in America and another player, just like Camila Cardoso was tied to Raven Johnson. Now Tania Latson, they played high school and AAU together for 3 years. I think we know who the 3 starters are going to be on the perimeter. Raven Johnson, 5th-year senior at point guard. Tania Latson, a senior and the nation's leading scorer. And then Tessa Johnson, I think, is poised to have a big year. I mean, arguably the best shooter on the team when she's got it rolling now. She's not having to play behind Breezy Hall. It's her time. And she showed it as a freshman and at times as a sophomore. She's capable of doing it. I am intrigued with Madison McDaniel, because I do think you could see her and Raven on the floor at the same time. Dawn Staley's done that in the past. I just think she has a very high ceiling, and injury sustained in a car accident over the holidays, I thought really hampered her development. But Agat McKeer and Isla McDowell, they're going to have to play. They're both 6'1", 6'2". They're long. They have high basketball IQs. They played international competitions for Canada and Brazil. And at least one of them needs to play. So your thoughts on the back court, and then we'll move to the front court.
Yeah, I think kind of like you said, the assumed first 3 out is going to be Raven, Tania, and Tessa. We know what Raven can do. We know what Tania can do. And we know what Tessa can do. I'm interested to see if Tessa can have a full, sustained season from an offensive perspective on this year. I think she was kind of streaky last year. Not entirely streaky, but it was one of those things where you needed a big bucket, and she's the best 3-point shooter on the team, and she wasn't there. So I'll be very intrigued to see how she does this season. To your point, I think Maddie McDaniel will probably be the first off the bench. And then, Fulwiley not being there opens up more bench minutes for McKeer and McDowell. And I would imagine they're going to play this season. They're going to play a lot. I'm very intrigued to see what the combinations of it all is. Like, does one of the freshmen play more than the other? Like, I think that entire bench unit, last year that bench unit was so vital when you had Wiley, Joyce, and Tessa all coming off the bench. You're not going to have that this year. I mean, yes, you have 11 players, and yes, Don Staley typically does not carry the full, 14, 15. But I think it'll be interesting to see just how good, or if there is a drop off, because in years past there's been little to no drop off when the starters come out. So I think even with the guards specifically, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out this season.
Yeah, I mean, to me, of the two freshmen, I think McDowell, from a physical standpoint, and she is a better spot-up three-point shooter and all-around player. McKeer, very thin. I'm interested to see what Molly Benetti has been able to do with her. But in the front court, I mean, you really have three players who were starters for their teams or played a lot of minutes. Well, I mean, Miriam Dowda was a starter at Arkansas. Chloe Kitts, she started last season. Medina Okot started at Mississippi State and averaged a double-double in SEC play, and she only played about 21, 22 minutes per game. I'm intrigued to see, do you bring Joyce off the bench and you start the big girl Okot at center and play with Chloe, or do you play Joyce and Chloe? I think Joyce honestly could play some three this year. She handles the ball. She worked and she shot and made a good percentage of three-pointers with Team USA. Miriam Dowda came on at the end of the year, and Adele Tack is a year past a dislocated kneecap. She should be wrapped up to be able to give some minutes. And she's shown really good hands, which that's the most important thing for a post player. If they can catch it, you can teach everything else. A lot of times you just can't teach somebody to catch it.
Yeah.
That is if they can catch it or offensive rebounded at 6'5", 6'6", the odds of them scoring obviously goes up exponentially. So, I mean, that's 5 players for 2 spots, or maybe 3 spots at times. Dawn Staley does play big at times. I could see Chloe or Joyce sliding to the 3 at times with her having the other one in there with Okot or Miriam Dowda or even Adele Tack.
Yeah, I think the versatility of the 2 freshman wings of Joyce, of Chloe, and honestly of Miriam Dowda, gives you the potential to these first 2 exhibition games, and honestly, the first 2 regular season games kind of gives you a little leeway to get creative with your lineups. Obviously, I'm sure Don will do that in practice and not necessarily in a game situation. But the versatility of those players gives you that leeway to test some things out. I think, coming into this year, once we found out that Ashley Watkins was taking the year off, I was like, okay, well, how do they handle kind of the rotation of the coach? Because last year when Ashley went down, we heard, oh, we're good. We've got a deep bench in that department, in the post department. But it really was just a combination of Joyce, Chloe, and Sanaya Fagan. Now you don't have Sanaya Fagan, but you do bring in Medina Okot. So it's you want Miriam Dowda to take another step forward this year. You want Adele Tack to take another jump this year. But it's hey, is Joyce, Chloe, and Medina enough in the post if your 2 other post players can't necessarily provide that boost that you need? I know in that second half of the season, it kind of took a while for Miriam Dowda to get rolling. Now, once we got in the postseason, she was able to give really good bench minutes, and I feel like that was a good sign for what is to come this year. But I think the post position is probably the position I'm the most confident in, outside of the two guards in Tanaya and Raven. Because I think just the combination of those three of Chloe Kitts and Joyce Edwards and Medina Epcot, you should be fine. To where if Adele Tag doesn't pan out, and if Miriam Dowdle doesn't necessarily provide what she did in the postseason, you should be okay. But yeah, I think I'm intrigued. I've said that a lot, but I'm intrigued to see how the lineups and the rotation works and who kind of fits in where once we get rolling.
I just think the fact that Dawn Staley talks so much about Raven Johnson's development, and the fact that you got two potentially 40+% 3-point shooters on the wing opens it up for the post players, because if you double down when you kick out, you're leaving Latson or Tessa or Maddie McDaniel, who can hit it, and Raven, who shot the ball much better in the second half of the season, not so much the first half, because she was on her victory tour or from the revenge tour, and not so much in the gym. Dawn Staley admitted that. Even Raven admitted that. But let's talk about the GOAT of Gamecock women's basketball. That is A'ja Wilson, 4-time WNBA MVP, the first time that's ever happened. Quite frankly, she got screwed out of it 2 years ago. Everybody knows that. There should have been 5. She was also the co-defensive player of the year again. And, I mean, she just set all kinds of records, the most 30-point games in a season. You know, Vegas got off to 11-11 start. A'ja was banged up. It looked like Chelsea Gray had basically been, turned to stone or something. She, aged 30 years in a hurry. But they really rebounded in the second half of the season. Wilson, 23.4 points, 10.2 rebounds. Some writer who got a vote went on and said, well, A'ja didn't do what she did last year when she had a career year. So therefore, I'm not voting for her as MVP, when she put that team on her back and carried them 16 straight wins to end the regular season.
You'll talk about moving the goalpost.
Yes. Oh, well, she didn't outdo the best season of her career. Therefore, I don't really like her anyway. So I'm not voting for her. But at any rate, everybody else did. 51 of 72 first-place votes. The rest second-place votes. Nafisa Collier, I think, pretty much got the rest. But the highest efficiency in the league, the highest win share in the league. And as a good friend of the show, Lulu Kesson, agrees with me, it's A'ja Wilson's world, and everybody is just living in it. The shoe line, South Carolina, is going to benefit greatly from that, particularly with her coming off a 4th record WNBA. I mean, think about that. Like, she's in her prime now, kind of in the front part of her prime. She's already won 4 before the age of 30. She's like 28 years old, maybe 29. She's already done things that no other player in history has done. And there's a lot left in the tank there. And it's not just her. Alicia Gray, an all-star this year. Aaliyah Boston, an all-star. Camila Cardoso, balling out. Tahina Powpow, balling out off the bench for Atlanta, who made the playoffs and then got upset in the first round because it's only 2 out of 3. I do like the fact now the semifinals are 3 out of 5, and then for the first time ever, the finals will be 4 out of 7. You know, Ty Harris, nobody talks about her. She missed the season. She's a starting point guard.
Yep.
You know, LA pretty much stuck with Golden State.
Zia Cook was back. Zia Cook was back in the league this year.
Yeah. And Breezy Hall was in and out, but in for the playoffs. Sanaya Fagan with LA, Tiffany Mitchell. South Carolina has the 3rd most WNBA players of any school. They have the most WNBA players of any school in the playoffs. Another recruiting tool for Dawn Staley. But you look at all these players. Cardoso shot 53%, 13.6 points per game, 8.5 rebounds. Alicia Gray was 7th in the league in scoring at over 18 points per game. Aaliyah Boston was a double. She and Cardoso were really a double machines down the stretch in the second half of the season. And now Aaliyah Boston's going against Asia Wilson to see who gets to the finals. And there's only going to be more pros going next year, right? Like Latson will be a pro. I mean, we'll see on some others, but Chloe Kitts should be a pro. I'm really interested because they list Medina Okot as a senior, but 3 years at University of Kenya, that's not really an NCAA sanctioned school. So I wonder, you know, what the deal is there. Mississippi State listed as a junior last year, which was her 4th year. This is her 5th year. You know, obviously you hope she's really, really good because Dawn Staley loves to play through the post, and maybe she's a top 5 pick. But if not, maybe she has another year, and then you just slide Ashlyn Watkins into Chloe Kitts' spot. Dowda obviously goes just a sophomore, but South Carolina's not really going anywhere. There's no demise, there's no decline coming anytime soon.
Yeah, we hit a lot there, so I got several responses for you.
Okay, awesome.
First,
too much.
No, not at all. Before we get to before I give Asia her flowers, I want to give some flowers to Alicia Gray. I mean, it's crazy that she had an MVP caliber year. She just happens to play in the same league as Asia Wilson. So she wasn't able to win. I think it was a huge season for her. The fact that even Aaliyah Boston was able to get a couple votes is cool. Just shows the level, to your point, the level of talent that Dawn Staley in this program has been able to put in the league. I do think the Medina Okot, what she's classified as, that'll be interesting to see after the end of this season, to see is there another year lying around somewhere for her or what. But I think even if she does go, I mean, just from a strictly, her frame is enough to get her drafted. And the potential that she could have in the league would be big. Obviously, I think we all assume Chloe Kitts is probably close to a lottery pick, but definitely a first-round pick. I'll be interested to see if Raven can work her way into a draft pick this year. I think that probably, and that's just speculation, probably played a lot into her coming back, as she probably was not going to get drafted last year. So it'll be interesting to see if she can get better on the offensive side of things from like a strictly shooting perspective to see if she can work her way into a draft pick. But yeah, I mean, it's you look at the roster construction over the next couple of years. I don't think they're going anywhere. And with the portal, you can plug really easily. So yeah, no, they're good. And then Asia. freaking best in the world. It was funny. Dawn got asked if she thinks if Asia is the best ever, and kind of skirted around, answered it without answering it. Asia was like, she's the best in the world. Currently, yes. I think you probably, if you're Asia Wilson, you just got to win one more title, and then it's okay. You're good. But also, like you said, she's I think freshly 29, is already 4 MVPs, and is in her 8th year. I think by the time it's all said and done, Asia Wilson is the best player to ever play women's basketball. To no one's surprise from the greater Columbia area, that's for sure. I remember watching her commitment on ESPN and the tiny TV in my kitchen growing up. And so seeing where she is now is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I think Dawn Staley probably did not want to offend her former teammates Cheryl Swoops and Lisa Leslie, and certainly Candace Parker is up there. It's just a shame the politics of Team USA, and particularly when Gino was the coach, he was not having her on the team because she went to Tennessee, which is really egregious. Honestly, and just kind of tells you all you need to know about that guy. And so, Michael, great stuff. Do you see any way the Gamecocks can turn this football season around? I mean, one thing you have to look at is, after the open date, it's not the same schedule as it was last year. Number 4, LSU. Number 7, Oklahoma with John Mateer, but he's fractured a wrist. He may be out for that game, which would really help South Carolina. Alabama, they're kind of the same. At Ole Miss, they're kind of the same. Texas A&M, at Texas A&M, South Carolina's never won at Kyle Field. Texas A&M probably not the same. LSU not the same. At Death Valley at night, they've got their defense turned around with Blake Baker. I mean, that is, I know there's an open date in there, but I don't know if any team in the country is playing basically 5 top 15 opponents in a row.
Yeah, I think you need to get the run game going, and it's just been so inconsistent. And I think a lot of that has had to do with shuffling on the offensive line. I mean, hell, against Missouri, you shuffle things around, and then you lost 2 guys to injury. So I think that doesn't help. The missed tackles that was a kind of egregious the last 2 games, and I know Shane talked about that a lot. It's interesting because there's things that if it's fixed and it's working, like they should have won their last 4 games. But it's a game of inches, and that's how things work out. But I think they beat Kentucky. They should beat Coastal Carolina. And then Clemson every year, despite no matter how bad Clemson is, no matter how bad Carolina is, it's a 50-50 game every year. But I think there's probably 3 games in there that you can win. But you're going to have to steal 1 or 2 of those LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M games, or else you're not going to make the bowl game. I'm not entirely ready to hit the panic button. I think there are definitely a few things that are some cause for concern on the offense, but Lord knows, Shane Beamer is known for maybe stealing a win or two that they came in as underdogs or necessarily weren't expected to win. So if they pull out a win at LSU or at Ole Miss or at A&M, I wouldn't be entirely surprised just because of this is his 5th year. The last 5 years, history tells us Shane Beamer will get a random top 25 win or two in the back half of the season, even when they're struggling. So I think they're still in bowl game territory. I think playoff conversation is dwindling, if not all the way gone. Things can change. We're 4 weeks in.
No doubt it's a long season, and Beamer's teams have gotten better. And outside of 2023, when they had no offensive line, which it may be the case again this year, they have figured it out. So, Michael, great stuff. I can't thank you enough for being with us. It endears my heart to see you and your Atlanta Braves cap. And so I hold here the 1995 Atlanta Braves World Series autographed baseball. My dad got it autographed by every Atlanta Brave on that team. I don't think you were born in 1995.
I was not. But that is awesome. I've got a poster I'm waiting to get framed from the anniversary of the 95 World Series. We took my dad to a Braves game last month for his birthday, and they were handing out those posters.
There's nothing better than that. Yeah. My dad took me to Braves games growing up, and I got to return the favor. And then 2 summers ago, I got to take my daughter to a Braves game and show her the Hall of Fame behind home plate on the concourse. Nothing like it. Michael, thanks as always. I mean, it's almost here. I mean, it's 2 weeks until South Carolina plays North Carolina in that exhibition game, and then the season will be here. And we hope you'll keep accepting our invite when you can to come on and chop it up and talk Gamecock women's basketball.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me on as always. Have a good one.
All right, thanks. The pleasure is ours, and our viewers love it. All right, that was Michael Sauls. I am Keith Alsep. That's all for today. Thanks to everybody for listening live. If you watch the YouTube channel, or if you're watching on X, go to the YouTube channel, hit like, hit the subscribe button, and you can let us know what you think. So appreciate Michael Sauls and Ben Breiner. Keith Alsep signing off. God bless, and go Gamecocks. I'm out of here.